Newsbreak podcast.
Okay, so I hope that you have braved the malls, braved the shopping centres, braved the shops, and I hope that you have survived a Black Friday. But you know what? It's not over yet. They make it now a Black Weekend, sometimes a Black Week, so you have more of these so-called bargains that you could benefit from. So I really hope shopping is off to a positive start for you. Welcome to News Break Talk. I'm Taresh Hariprasad, and this is where you get to give your views a voice. It's cutting-edge current affairs today, and we are zeroing in on the festive season spend. Now, as we know it, and this is usually a US culture, but it's taken found expression across the world, and it almost does make sense, right? Because it's just, say 2 weeks, 3 weeks before the festive season begins proper, so everybody's out jostling. Perhaps you've got that December salary, and that salary is going to have to take you through for a couple of years, because you know how it goes with payday in the festive season. So a lot of people want to get their cupboard stocked, to want to get their so get some new clothes for the festive season, get the kids some toys so that they're occupied for the fact that school holidays are about to begin proper. So, a lot of need to spend, a lot of reason to spend. But here's my point to you, and this is where you have the aha moment. South African annual inflation, it quickened to a 5-month high in October. And analysts were quite shocked. They expected it to not reach this level, but it did. Headline consumer inflation, it rose to 5.9% year on year in October, and this is from 5.4% in September. Everybody did expect something much lower, but boom, it got to 5.9%, boom, in your December. And also this, I think the good news was that the Reserve Bank then days later, they capped inflation, unchanged, but really, is that something to celebrate, really? Repo rate at 8.25%. That's how much of interest you're paying when you borrow. So it's I don't know. When you look at those two figures, consumer inflation rising to 5.9% at a repo rate of 8.25%, with burgeoning food costs, transport costs as a result of fuel costs. Wow, how much do you have to spend? How much should you spend, and how is that festive season going to go? So I know it sounds doom and gloom, but I'm just basically giving you statistics here, numbers. So it's not me painting a bad picture of the festive season, perhaps, but it's looking at the data and how we can use that data to try and mitigate the festive season. So I'm basically asking you today, as the festive season spend begins officially, are you ready to spend this festive season? How are you going to manage it, taking into account the way food has increased to such exorbitant levels over the past 12 months, the way things are so tough and tense economically? How are you going to be spending this festive season? Let's start it off then. I've got guests who are going to be joining me, but I want to start it off with some perspective for you, so you understand where we exactly are. Mervyn Abrahams is the program coordinator for the Peter Maritzburg Economic Justice and Dignity Group, and he's been telling us how the food basket has been increasing over the year, and he's not happy.
We have seen during 2023 that most South Africans, even middle-class South Africans, having been struggling in order to put the basics on the table, be that food, transport, electricity, rent. And that was to do with a number of factors. The first is that food prices have continued to increase from the beginning of the year right to now, when it's standing at about a 10% inflation level. But also we have seen the Reserve Bank increasing interest rates, which has made it even more difficult for households to survive, because interest on debt was then increased. And so more money was being spent on debt servicing than they were able to buy food. And of course, transport has increased way above the level in which wages have increased.
And of course, we're talking here about the month-to-month functioning of a salary or an income, right? Now we go into festive season, and already you're seeing the sales, you're seeing the bargains. People need to spend more, to celebrate more. I mean, what economic climate are South Africans entering as they gear up for the festive season?
So as we go towards the festive season, it's going to be a real difficult time. And so we have to caution households that might have an extra bit of money over the festive season to think about saving that for January when school fees and school uniforms and stationeries all come due. We are in a very difficult financial trajectory at the moment. Even though that the Reserve Bank has not increased interest rates, we are seeing food prices skyrocketing. So, for instance, the price of rice has increased by something like 22% just over the last month. We've seen that potatoes have increased something like the region of 102% over the past year, and we are likely to see those two foods continuing to increase. We have seen eggs and potentially chicken prices increase massively because of the avian flu, and we're about to see that in December. So it should be working its way into the retail stores. It's important for people to celebrate, but we have to remember that in the new year, things will continue to be difficult.
To sort of add more context to that, I mean, you're saying that the basic household food basket has increased by just over 140 Rand month on month, which means it's 140 Rand more expensive to buy the same food you bought last month, right? And if you look at it from an annual perspective, about over 500 Rand more year on year for food. Taking all of that into account, how would you remind South Africans that it's not a normal festive season, meaning it's not like festive seasons prior where things were a bit more affordable and there was a bit more flow of cash? This festive season is relatively different.
Yes, exactly. So what we have seen, as you correctly mentioned, that food prices have spiked by 2.8% or 141 Rand just between September and October. And we expect it to increase even further because we will possibly see the price of chicken increasing massively as well as we go between October and November. It's correctly, as you said, it is not a festive season in much the same mold as in the past. There is less money to go around, and we are going to have to save for the month of January, which is an extremely difficult month for most households, particularly those who have children going to school. That the main increases in inflation in South Africa rest around two things. It is around food prices that are getting way more expensive than the levels of wages, incomes that we get, and secondly, transport.
Mervyn Abrams, they're giving us an overview of it all and really suggest the climate we're finding ourselves in. In October 2023, according to that Household Affordability Index, the average cost of the household food basket in South Africa has reached to 5,297 Rand. Okay, let's take the conversation forward now. I'm being joined in studio by Yolanda Hariprasad, and she's an entrepreneur, property investor, wealth advisor, and she runs this really cool website called Financially Fabulous, providing great advice to everybody on how to handle finance. Yolanda, welcome to the program. Great to have you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's good to have you in studio, and it's wonderful to see the work that you've been doing. I see a lot of people commenting on the impact your advice makes to them from a personal wealth perspective. How is that important to you?
I think my goal with the content that I create is to encourage people to manage money better, to build generational wealth, and also have a good quality of life despite all life's challenges. And I try to take complex topics like economics and commerce. Not everybody gets it, and try to make it simple, give it in bite-sized pizzas, and hopefully it's breadcrumbs that inspires people to go learn more for themselves.
Valuable in this climate. I mean, we just heard from Mr. Mervyn Abrams there, and he's been just researching the burgeoning cost of everything, really. Mm-hmm. And he says in that interview that food and transport is just making South Africans poorer, right? And we go into festive season, and there's a lot of food on tables because there's a lot of socializing, and then there's a lot of spending on clothes, toys, toiletries. I think I'll get my hair done and change my hair color this December. I mean, that's the kind of culture South Africans have.
Consumer culture.
Right? But an inflation rate of such high proportions, how is that going to find expression this festive season?
I think it's going to be up to us, our priorities, and how we handle our family and expectations. Do we have that mindset of keeping up with the Joneses? Or is it really about the season, those observing the actual Christmas festivities? I know during this time it's a big shutdown for the country, and everybody who's even not observing that specific holiday, you're getting together with family and friends. And what is it about? Is it about the opulence, or is it about connecting? And which is a bigger priority? And somehow you need to find that balance. Yeah. And South Africans, I mean, if we're a special kind, huh? We started Decembering from Friday because it's Black Friday. I mean, when I was growing up and I was younger, the holiday officially started when, and the big spending started when school closed, the day school closed.
Right.
Now it's being pushed back 2 or 3 weeks because Black Friday is becoming more and more prominent as part of South African culture. So it's hard. It's hard to be raising a family in that consumer culture, and we're consuming all the time.
Because you said that South Africans were a different bunch and we start Decembering too early, I have to ask you this question because I thought about it as I drove home from work on Friday. Gridlock traffic, right? On Black Friday. People were shopping.
Yeah.
Consumers were out. But when we look at things like a 5.9 inflation rate, repo rate at over 8%, meaning that if you buy on credit, you're going to pay, 8% more. With all of this into account, how do people have money?
It's credit. Unfortunately, a lot of people are living on debt. And I remember reading a report sometime during the year that says that most South Africans finish their salary in 5 days. So that money doesn't even last a week, and unfortunately people are turning to credit. And now at a time when interest rates are high, most likely in January could be another hike as well. And that's the thing that's breaking people. It's that consumer culture, gotta have it now, and we have to prioritize, otherwise, we're not going to make it.
Yolanda, what do you do, man? It's December, it's the festive season, really. Globally, culturally, it is the time, it's okay to eat dal and rice on Christmas. There's nothing wrong with that. But there is a culture, whether you're Hindu or not, or whether you're Christian or not, whatever your religion is, right? That Christmas lunch spread is a thing, right? What can South Africans do to ensure that they have the type of festive season that they've become accustomed to?
Essentially, you want to be planning in advance as much as you can. What I specifically do is like from May or June, I have a separate 7-day account in my banking app, and I put away some money there, 500, 1,000, and whatever the case is, and that's my Christmas budget. So I have another account like that for holidays and stuff. That's part of my budget well in advance before Christmas, that I'm putting money away, because we're going to be buying and we're going to be getting guests, and it can't come out from our regular December budget. This is over and above, and we can't live on debt. So that helps me buffer.
I want to stop you at that point because I think it's important to reiterate it for the audience, like you're saying, bite-sized information and the crumbs. Perhaps you can't manage a December from your salary.
Yeah.
You need additional funds for that. So that was very important.
Yeah, I have a friend of mine, and his family, I mean, the extended family, the cousins, the uncles, the aunts, they have a family account. And every month, everybody, the entire family contributes the nuclear set, 100 Rand or 150. So whatever's accumulated over the year, maybe it's a 20, 30,000 Rand, that's their December budget. That's their meal planning.
Yeah.
And I know in our community, in the Durban community, our families are bigger. We like to get together. Maybe you have to put out a marquee at home, hire some extra chairs. This is how you can start planning in advance, instead of stressing about, how I'm going to manage this. And then in January, you're crying. It's like a blue January. And, we also have to consider our year as well, right? November is at the beginning of December, end of school, end of varsity. Then we go into Christmas. Then we go into New Year. Then January is the beginning of the new year, school year as well. So all of that bills need to be taken care of in a 6 to 7 week period. And it's only prior planning that's going to help us manage this time.
Yeah. Another important point, Yolanda, before we take some of the social media comments that are coming through, the cost of living has increased. We don't need to quantify that anymore. It just has, right, for whatever reason. But salaries haven't.
Yes.
Okay, so how does that work on the ground now, where South Africans are not earning as much as what the shops are telling them to spend, because that's the prices now?
Well, I think there's no magic formula or some secret sauce to this. I think it's about our mindset. So we go out and we work every day. At the end of the month, we have our salary. So that's the fruit of our labor. And if we look at fruit, any fruit, from strawberries to oranges and bananas, not really seedless grapes, but the nature of a fruit is a seed and the flesh. So you can consume the fruit and then you have the seed, and most times you can't consume the seed. So we have to have the same kind of mindset with our income. We can consume a portion, and then that seed, you got to sow that seed somewhere. And ideally investing, I mean, obviously you got to partner with somebody if you don't know how to do it. Investing helps you create that buffer because it allows you to grow greater than the rate of inflation. And over time, it's just that momentum that can give you that extra income. And there's lots of options available, but essentially my encouragement to people is you can't consume everything you earn. You're going to be in that rat race continuously. A portion of that, even if you're just starting with 100 Rand a month, has to go away for the long term for it to grow you something for the future.
Where must it go, Yolanda? Must it go into some sort of Wall Street stock market, three-piece suit, Armani briefcase carrying type of deal, or must it just go into a bank account, separate one?
I think if you're just starting out, just have a separate account, all right, till you accumulate a sum. And, banks don't give you the highest interest. Sometimes it's not even reaching or matching inflation. So at that point, I mean, partner with somebody, speak to friends and family, try and get advice, go online. I mean, tons of content on my website, and how you can invest that into something greater.
Yeah. Okay, so we are talking about how to handle the festive season, the spend with a 5.9% inflation rate, 8.25%, I believe, is the repo rate, how to put all of that together and work around it so that you don't overspend this festive season, because after the festive season comes January, isn't it? We'll talk about all of that in a short bit.
Join us on Afternoon Express Tuesday at 6 p.m. on S3 as we discuss grieving and dealing with loss. We unpack everything from working through the grieving process to understanding the financial implications that you should be prepared for. Plus, we guide you through the importance of drafting a legal will. That's Afternoon Express this Tuesday at 6 p.m. only on S3. Repeat Sundays at 8:30 a.m.
RSB Barkane understand the value of 3 points, but Sekhukhune United are targeting the same prize. The Moroccans aim to exhilarate their fans with victory. Meanwhile, Babina Noku are on a mission to elaborate that they mean business. This is the CAF Confederation Cup. Catch RSB Barkane and Sekhukhune United this Sunday, 26 November at 8:30 p.m. live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
What's up? Bring on even more big savings this SPAR Black Friday sale. Reward yourself with more prices you can't miss. Like 1.5-litre Coca-Cola regular, buy 4 for 48 Rand. And 3 kg Sunlight hand washing powder for only 59.99. It's the SPAR Black Friday sale, exclusive to SPAR Rewards customers from 23 to 26 November. Only at SPAR.
This special acknowledgement goes to Hollywood Bets.
Your heartwarming support gave millions of South Africans a thrilling experience during the Rugby World Cup France 2023.
The vibration that moved the nation.
Salute Hollywood Bets.
Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
It's News Break Talk. I'm Taresh Haripashad. Today we're having a conversation about how to manage the festive season spent, taking the data into account, the financial outlooks into account. I'm joined today in studio by Yolanda Haripashad. She's an economic expert, a wealth advisor, and the brainchild behind Financially Fabulous. So we're going to go to socials, get a sense of what you're saying. Remember, the views and opinions expressed on News Break Talk do not necessarily reflect the views of the SABC or Lotus FM. Let's go to Kogi Reddy.
Hi Taresh, this is Reddy Kogi from Verulam. Talking about Black Friday, the people that get paid on the 24th and 25th, it's okay for them. The people that get paid after the 25th, on the 28th, 29th or 30th, for them Black Friday is like you can't do nothing. Because my son, he works and he only get paid after the 28th. So for me personally, I don't like Black Friday because it's only suit the people that get paid on that day.
Kogi, I think they're lucky. So they can keep the money and not spend it on those weird deals that we all get enticed by. Salim Adam, what are your thoughts?
Hi Tiresh. Inflation means too much money is chasing too few goods. As a result, prices will increase. But you see, my assessment of the situation is that there is still a lot of money. You know, if you think about it, the informal economy is actually blossoming, is booming. You know, the formal economy may be going through some challenges, but you know, right now, people are not really battling. The increase in interest rates didn't have a very heavy negative effect on the people's, bottom line. That means the disposable income. So right now, people still have a lot of money, but also remember, there's a lot of credit expansions taking place. People are buying on credit. They're buying now and going to pay later. So obviously, the pinch is still to come. So you will see in time to come how it'll affect. You'll find that the hard times are ahead.
Yeah, Salim talking about the informal economy as well. I mean, I think Yolanda and I were actually talking about that before the show started, where we said we're looking at the local markets now as opposed to going and buying our veggies from those other broader spaces that's more convenient. Louis Pillay, what are your thoughts?
Good afternoon, Jadesh. Yeah, it's a lovely topic talking about the budget, and people don't know how to budget. It's difficult to live and your budget is tight, but how can an unemployed person live? I think the December salary, together with your Christmas bonus, comes early, and it's a long pull or a stretch for your January salary that comes end of the month. I think if you're doing shopping, try to have an heavy meal or eat enough or a good meal before you do your shopping, so you pick less items. Try not to use your plastic cards a lot. Do not spend more than your salary or the budget that you got. But if you earn less and you spend more, you'll be in the red. Looking at it, you must pay 24 months budget over your accounts, and next year you'll be deeper in the red with your budget system. Thank you.
Thanks so much for that, Louis. So yes, like I said, we're in conversation with Yolanda Haripashad, the director of Solomon Wealth, helping South Africans handle wealth better to ensure that, you have far more of a fruitful life. Yolanda, let's talk about that very point that Mr. Pillay left us on. He said budget. What does that mean? What is that word?
A budget is basically planning your money, and the big mistake a lot of us make with that is okay, we'll go through this exercise. I'm earning so much. This is how much is going to my rent, my food, my car, my petrol, and all of that. But in reality, that's not a static document. You have to go back at it every week, sometimes every day. I mean, if you're new at it, go at it every day and say, okay, today I spent 200 Rand on petrol. How much of my budget did I utilize? How long will this budget last me? And so it's a living document that we have to constantly go back towards, and it takes a lot of work. And I think that's the thing that puts people off.
I had a conversation with an economist who said, write down every day what you're going to be eating in December, even if you're having guests or you're planning a dinner party, write it down exactly what you're going to be eating, and do not veer off that.
Yeah.
Can South Africans live like that?
If people put in the effort, then yeah, you can. I mean, I plan my meals for the week. I try for only 2 meals a day. I mean, we put a lot of effort into eating, and not so much quantity of food, more quality of food. A better grade of meat that you're not consuming as much, better for your body, better for your wallet as well. So if you put that effort in, obviously you're going to make some mistakes in the beginning. Don't be discouraged. Just start again, and you'll get there eventually. It just takes a lot of discipline and a lot of consistency, as does anything in life that you want to be successful.
You know why I'm asking on this point, Yolanda, is because they call it the silly season, right? Because I didn't see that friend in a long time. I'll tell them to come over, man. We'll just whip up a meal. Or my friend from Joburg said let's meet, and I haven't bought anything for the kids, so let me just stop off at Toys R Us or wherever and buy a bag full of toys. It's not in the budget, not part of the plan. It's a silly season. Giving, sharing, celebrations, all of that. Your advice to South Africans taking a tougher economic pressure system on them to be more mindful of the way they just dish out the funds.
Yeah. So essentially, I mean, try to work with what we have. Like in South Africa, we have a lot of these loyalty programs. So if I go shopping, I must use at least 3 of those loyalty programs for one purchase. From my medical aid loyalty to that store loyalty to my credit card loyalty. So I can get as much back as I can on that purchase. So you have to sit down and plan, what can you use, when can you use it? And you can't give in to temptation. You have this budget, and don't go overboard. And be simple with your gifts. Homemade is okay. Something special.
Keeping up with the family next door, like you said earlier, keeping up with the Joneses, and that being you said it's a South African thing, but I really believe it's a global culture, really, where everybody wants to do what the other person is doing. Your thoughts on that, Yolanda? Because I don't know. I mean, you just look around you and you see everybody. Like the Black Friday is a great example of that. You just see people spending. People chasing down Black Friday deals, and you may not need anything, but you will still go, right? Your advice to South Africans? Wait a second. If you can't afford to gift everybody in your complex or in your neighborhood, don't.
Yeah, don't. I mean, everybody's scaling down. Why do you want to take on debt to, please somebody? Keep it small. Have your close circle of friends. If you want to treat them to something nice, go homemade. You don't have to swipe the credit card for everything. There shouldn't be a price tag attached to showing your appreciation that you have for somebody. And I think that a lot of the times we're not disciplined with that credit card. And if it means taking that credit card and leaving it at home during December and just handling cash, you'd rather do that.
Yolanda, what can you tell me about this idea that when you look at the sort of family perspective, right? When you have families now wanting a particular type of December, children, they want toys, they want clothes, and maybe they don't understand what a repo rate means, etc. How to have the conversation with the family? I know you said some families save collectively for the festive season. How to have that family conversation?
With kids, it's a little bit harder to explain to them, but you got to ease it in. Give them options. I mean, you can have this or you can have this, but we can't have both. So managing the kids' expectations is very important. I mean, it's a very special time of year. Everybody's trying to be effective, but manage the kids well and give them options and let them know they can't have everything. We can either go here today or somewhere else next week, but we can't do both.
Absolutely. Well, sound advice on how to handle the festive season that's upon us amid the tough economic climate. Yolanda Haripashad is joining us today for that conversation. Solomon Wealth is her focus in terms of helping South Africans mitigate it all. But I'm also joined on the line by somebody else who's going to add more context and credence to a lot of what we're talking about here. Let me welcome now onto the program today my next guest, who's Ruveshan Mudli, who's made the time. We thank you so much for that. And Ruveshan, of course, is from BSV Consulting. Ruveshan, happy festive season. How are you doing?
Hi, Suresh. Good, thanks, and yourself. Thank you so much for having me on the program.
I just want to check though, are you still standing Black Friday, Black Weekend? I mean, how much of damage did you do?
If I'm completely honest with you, I made no purchases during Black Friday and Black Friday week.
Yeah, and what was the thought process behind that?
So typically what happens with the Black Friday market is you notice that retailers are trying to get rid of their old stock, firstly. Secondly, some of the deals, when you actually do your research, they aren't actually deals. You know, previously we'd have Black Friday as 50, 60, 70, sometimes up to 80% off on certain items. And that's not what's happening right now. And that was one of the main reasons as to why I decided not to do any spending.
It's the psychology of it all here. And maybe let's talk about psychology then, Ruvishan, before we go into the more nitty-gritty of wealth and finance and debt and all of that. I mean, I was speaking with Yolanda now, and Yolanda says, you know what, the keeping up with the Joneses, you know, one needs to realize the implications of that, the debt aspects of that. You know, if you can't do it, you can't do it. Don't try and impress people. What's your thoughts about the psychology of spending that South Africans have, and how has the tough economic climate we find ourselves changed that psychology?
Okay, cool. So, in general, money is psychological. Whether it be you trying to start a business, trying to invest, there's risk associated to it, and then our spending. And I say it's psychological because we develop habits. And as creatures of habit, what tends to happen is we develop bad spending habits. And when we develop bad spending habits, no matter how much we earn, because of our bad spending habits, we end up back in debt. The income isn't enough. You know, it's the general that what happens all the time to different South Africans. And I think it's not even just limited to South Africa. It's people in general, being creatures of habits. We literally build up these bad spending habits and we're like, no, you know what, we only live once. Okay, perfect, cool. But, you know, in the event that something doesn't happen to you, then you're sitting in an issue the next year, especially during the festive time. You know, we tend to be a bit more giving. We tend to be spending more money than we actually have.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
You know,
Viveshan, you know, I know what you're saying there about, you know, you live once, or it's just money, let's spend it, etc. I understand that part of the psychology. The other one is, you know, sometimes you just psychologically didn't calculate, right? So, you know, you think you can afford this and you can get this and you can keep, and then you log on to your app a few days later and you like, wait a second, where did all that money go? What are your thoughts about that sort of psychological flexibility that South Africans have enjoyed or are still enjoying currently that needs to change right now? Because I think one needs to keep a bit more track of every cent spent, isn't it?
100%. So just on that, when you look at a company, right, they always do something called cash flow management. And I relate that to our personal budgets, because if a company can hire an entire finance department to manage the company's finances, why don't we manage our finances in that way, be it daily, weekly, or monthly? What happens is the general consensus of a budget is I write up an Excel spreadsheet of my income and expenses, and that's it, I'm done. No, the most important thing about a budget is sticking to it. You know, you didn't go through the effort of putting this budget together just to go and spend more than you were supposed to. And I think that's one of the main reasons we always fall short, is because we tend to write out our budget but not stick to it.
Yeah,
so
yeah. Ruvesh, Yolanda tells me that a lot of South Africans and a lot of the sort of frenzies we've been seeing in the past weekend at Black Friday, a lot of South Africans are spending on debt, right? And you're suggesting that one of the biggest focuses and goals this festive season spend should be offsetting debt. Tell me about that, because if people can't afford to even take that salary to the end of the month, how are they going to clear their debt?
100%. So what I suggest, and you know, we always have in December the 13th checks, and some companies give us bonuses, performance bonuses. this is the ideal time for South Africans to use the debt snowball method, because there will be a little more money in your account, so you can afford to pay off some of your smaller debts and actually get the joy of freeing off some of the smaller debts right now, as opposed to leaving it for another year and it just accumulates more interest charges and you just sit in the same predicament that you were in this year, next year.
Absolutely. And I think a big focus has been January, right? And that comes right after December. So I think I'm going to have to request you both to come through again for my January, surviving January talk show. I might as well book you guys now. Because there's a future after the festive season, isn't it? And it's a long one.
100%. Definitely. And, it's because of our bad spending habits that happen in December. That's why we get stuck in January, and now we need to take out loans, or we need to increase our credit card limits. And you know what? All we're going to do is continuously put ourselves further into debt, and we're never going to be able to achieve financial freedom. And I'm not saying if you start now, in the next year, you're going to attain financial freedom. That's not the point of it. You need to work towards it. It's kind of like a full-time job as well. Something you can't forget about for 6 months and then start.
I want to ask this whiny question, right? Because it's pointless even asking it, but I'm going to nonetheless. Why is it so hard, man? Why are South Africans faced with this sort of economic pressure that right now we're here literally talking on a radio talk show to ask and debate and discuss whether or not to celebrate December or not?
Okay. It's a little bit greater than us. There's been multiple factors that contributed to the economic decline of South Africa. So it's not just us. The increased petrol prices, load shedding is putting strain on tons of businesses. And the moment you start putting pressure on businesses, everything goes up, because a business at the end of the day needs to thrive as well. And if you look at the amount of small businesses that had to shut their doors just because of load shedding, that alone will just tell you that, we need to start doing things slightly differently. Even us as individuals, whether you own a business, don't own a business, be more mindful with your spending. You can still enjoy your festive season, but maybe not to the levels that you did in the past. You need to just be a bit smarter with your money. And what you'll notice is we always have people state that we have income problems, but in most cases, we actually have spending problems and not income problems. Living within your means is never a bad thing.
Yeah.
And even if other people look down upon you, you live within your means. Don't try and live like your neighbor that's, earning 2 times the amount that you are. You need to compare apples with apples.
I think that's a solid point, and that's something we should be driving home. But I think, Riveshan, as you begin to wrap up and leave us now, I want to know one of your big focuses that has come through quite intently and strongly in the work that you do, specifically with BSV Consulting, is wealth generation, wealth management, right? And I was saying to Yolanda before we began that I've previously done talk shows about saving, and my question has basically been, well, how can you save if your salary is not enough to even put food on the table? Your thoughts on that, because this would also be a good December gift to South Africans, how to make their money grow, isn't it?
Yes. So we always, again, say we don't have enough money to save, etc. But I'm not sure if you remember, last year there was an article on an individual that saved 2,495 Rand just by saving his change in a year. 2,495 Rand. Now, if we make a conscious effort to save 50 Rand, 100 Rand here and there, it's going to make a difference. And you don't need millions to start saving. You need to start saving with what you have right now. So if you only can afford, and again, it boils down to the budget. If you don't have a proper budget in place and you don't pay yourself first, the savings need to go off first before everything else. It needs to be like the debit order at the end of every month. Once it's out, put it in a separate bank account, leave it there, forget about it. And I promise you, in a year, you'll start seeing your money add up. And, the greatest part about a savings account, even though it's not as fruitful as an investment account, for a start, you earn compound interest on it, which is so important. You have to earn compound interest.
Yeah, Ravesh Mudli from BSV Consulting. Thank you for making the time and also for the work that you do on social media, really providing perspective and I think a critical analysis on ways to make your personal economy work better for you. So keep up. You can follow Ravesh Mudli on socials to see the stuff that he's doing, and wishing you a great festive season.
Thank you so much, guys, and you too.
Ravesh, we'll talk to you soon. Ravesh Mudli over there bringing us the latest in terms of tips and tricks to meet that festive season challenge. I see your social media voice notes and your text messages. I'm going to go through it all. But Yolanda, before we take a quick break to go to socials, I want to know from you mistakes. I mean, Ravesh was talking about all sorts of ways of planning and saving and psychologically sticking to a budget, right? These are the things that you should do. What are some of the mistakes that South African households are making that we can learn from that you've noticed this year?
I think the biggest mistake that we make with our spending is that we prioritize our wants over our needs. Like we want to invite our friend over for that meal or that braai, but we got school fees that are due next month, school uniform, all this stationery and things like that. So that budget, that planning needs to happen in advance for this next 6 to 8 weeks. Put that money aside, and then what's left, prioritize. You know, you can't see everybody, you can't do everything for everybody, and get a plan together. Another mistake that we make, especially coming from Black Friday or Black Month, I'm not sure what the retailers are calling it now, but it's instant gratification. We want that cell phone, we want it now.
Yeah.
We want the TV, we want it now. And we have to be more mindful, and we have to adopt delayed gratification a little bit more. And we don't have to have everything now.
Okay, so what's delayed gratification? Because that sounds really cool.
Delayed gratification, you want the TV? Yes, okay. But plan for the TV. Put your 1,000 Rand away a month. Then wait for Black Friday next year, then buy the TV. You don't have to buy it on credit. Yeah, you don't need everything as soon as you see it. You don't need the latest cell phone as the same day that, there's an update.
I spoke a little bit to Ravesh now about psychology, and I want to get your thoughts on it. In terms of, say you get a salary and you've paid for the basics, whether that is transport, food, whatever your basic is, and now you look at what's left and say on the first 5 days of the salary there's only 500 Rand left. You've got to now, from a disposable income perspective, for the next 20 days live off 500 Rand, right? And there comes the psychology then of, I'm sad, I'm frustrated, I can't have a celebration like the others. And then that weighs down on you. We are people at the end of the day, What is your advice to that kind of South African psychologically to say, listen, just calm down. If you can't go to that VIP party that your friends have been able to go, maybe just calm down and let it go.
Yeah, I think one, you need to plan for it. You can't put everything on the credit card. And create the slush fund. I mean, have that one account, and you're putting a certain amount of money away. I mean, you don't know when the next party or the next concert or some nice thing that you want is going to happen. So have a slush fund there. And also use it like a reward system. If you want something nice, use it like a reward system. Okay, when I first save my first 5,000, then I will go out for a meal, or I'll go watch a movie, and then go in that cycle again. Save the next 5,000 and then reward yourself. It can't just be, being disciplined all the time. Have those rewards buckets there.
I see specifically between the points that you're raising, Yolanda, you're really suggesting that you must make the money work for you and not the other way around, right?
Yeah, so Ravashan said this concept of paying yourself first.
Yeah.
So what he was talking about was, in your budget, you got to have that money put aside for you, pay your expenses, then what's left, then you live off that. So your money that's put away for, ideally first your emergency fund, and then once you have that, go to more advanced investments. So that's you. Pay yourself first. And then once you accumulate, and once that money is making money, it's a different ball game, and that's that consumption culture again.
You know why I asked that question, Yolanda? Because a lot of people have this idea of salary, spend the salary, next salary.
Yeah.
It goes in 3 points like that, right?
Yeah.
But what you're suggesting is wait a second, allocate, put away, and all of that. And I think basically, I really hope that you at home can get that point about the fact that it cannot simply be now, specifically in a time where every cent counts. Salary, spend salary, get new salary. It needs to be a bit more involved than that. When we come back, we go to your socials and then we'll wrap up our conversation. Stay tuned.
Have you ever noticed how unique the rugby ball is?
You should check out Head High.
The rise of junior rugby stars Mana and Tai.
Vince is not just their stepfather, he's their coach.
Catch the brothers' dream of the black jersey, Head High, every Sunday at 9 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com.
Hashtag Rugby Drama Galore. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
Get everything in store and online at Jayshree's Rivas Black Friday sale. 4 days only. Doors open at 9 a.m. sharp. Get there early and save big. Jayshree's Rivas, Springfield, Canubia, Chatsworth and online.
Okay, it's Newsbreak Talk. I'm Taresh Hariprasad. I'm joined by Yolanda Hariprasad. She's the director of Solomon Wealth Creation. So we are talking about how to handle festive season amid tough economic times. Let's go to some of your voice notes. I'm going to skim through them, so apologies if I just take a section of it. Let's go to Mr. A. and Governor.
Good day, Taresh. The quote, neither a lender nor a borrower be is apt today. Times are difficult and cost of living has spiraled. You must cut your coat according to your cloth. Don't get into financial difficulty with loan sharks. We must live within our means. We must buy what we can afford. I learned this from my late father who said, we don't have any money. If we borrow, we have to repay the money. How are we going to repay the money when we don't have the money? That's my policy. Thank you.
Stunning policy, Mr. Governor. Let's go to Daniel Chellin.
Hi, this is Daniel Joshua Challen. As far as spending for Christmas season is concerned, I know some of you may get a bonus and things like that. Don't spend the money before you receive it. Make a listing of and get your priorities right. Make a listing of all that you require and set aside an amount that where you may have to entertain guests. And don't try and compete with those that have more finances than you, because they can afford better things and nobody's going to run you down. Nobody is going to look at you.
Mr. Daniel Chellin giving some good advice there. Thank you so much for that. Let's go to Clive.
You know, in some cases where you get just one person working as a breadwinner and got 6 dependents to feed, plus bills to take care of, it's very difficult to work with budgets or even think about savings. You've got to take every day as it comes and every month as it goes. Thank you.
Clive, appreciate that. Let's go to Yasmin.
Taresh, you're speaking to Yasmin Roy of Newcastle. Taresh, Black Friday is not something that really makes me feel as though I must go and shop at Black Friday. Whenever I do have money, I just buy the things that I feel that are cheap. And then when it's year end, I know I've got enough supply, and at the same time I make sure that every month when I do have a little surplus, I save.
Yeah, I have to save it, Ms. Roy. Great to hear from you. Thank you so much. And we've got a Frank now. Hello, Frank.
Hi, Taresh, the Newsbreak team and the listeners. Retailers are clever. When they're in the red, they have a Black Friday to balance off their books. Thank you, Frank Maritzburg.
Thanks so much. A nice little text was sent to us by, I think it's Suran Magan, who says, money speaks only one language. If you save me today, I will save you tomorrow. Try and get in some quick text messages before we wrap up our conversation. Tej says, I don't shop on Black Friday. There are too many people. That's definitely one reason not to shop on Black Friday. Shanti says, with the cost of living, we have escalated our to survival mode. That's a powerful word, Shanti, survival mode. You know, you survive amid the tough time and plan for a better time. Black Friday spending is going to hit us to dark days over the festive season. Vitesh says, I'm thinking of ways to increase my income like my late dad. Deepak says, it seems that the cost of living, and especially food, is rising faster than an aeroplane. Rani Pillai says, due to the limited disposable income, consumers need to exercise stringent control over finances. Mala says Black Friday has become a craze across the country, even though it's just a few items that are sold at discounted prices. Ronnie Narayan Sami says, Vanakkam Namaste Namaskaram. I'm taking it as it comes, most importantly, not spending over my budget. Dinakar says final exam dates should be changed to June, July, and the new term to begin after the winter break. Parents should have enough cash on hand by mid-year for school fees. Yeah, interesting points being raised over here. So, Yolanda, as we begin to wrap it up, you know, there was something I was quite interested in, and we even had a question to this regard, you know, how to invest, how do you do that, etc. It's wealth creation, because when you do that, you know, you ultimately then have, I'd imagine, a surplus of funds, right? I think one of my questions to you was the difference between money in the bank or money... how do I say this? The difference between money that you have in the bank or difference between money that you've invested, money that you can't see, it's not in your hand, versus money you're spending, right? That you're just dishing out the cash. What is the difference of that? Because both looks like wealth, but they're not the same thing, isn't it?
No, it's not the same thing. If you look at the banks, if you're saving in the bank will pay you interest, and it's guaranteed interest. You know what your return is going to be. Then when you start more advanced investments, now you're investing in different sort of asset classes. And you got to have some understanding about that. For example, shares. Very risky, very volatile, but gives you some great returns. Then you have commodities like gold and oil. That is cyclic. You know, we're in a commodity slump right now, but oil is kind of tense because of what's happening in the Middle East. So you got to play on those markets, and also the major thing that nobody looks at is all of those sort of incomes are taxed differently. And you know, making money and keeping money is two different things, and that keeping money part is often neglected, and tax is a big part of that.
Yeah, and the other point was just because you're spending a lot of money does not mean that you're particularly wealthy, right?
Yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah, I mean. Rich is loud and wealth is soft. So let's try not to be loud this season, you know. Just keep it quiet, enjoy yourself, enjoy your family, know what the priority is, you know.
I think you need to do a TikTok video on that point. I love it, Yolanda. But I think as we wrap it up now, I want to ask you, what's that one tip to South Africans for festive season? I want to ask you that. But I feel like I'm going to shift it, and I'm going to rather say to you, for those who have not done what we've spoken about, and they're at this complete oopsie moment of the festive season, what would you say to them? They have not planned financially. They do have some debt. They don't know how that disposable income is going to go because the food is so high. It's eating into what they earn. What are you going to say to them?
I'm going to say you're going to look in your house and see what's not needed and try and get rid of it, because that's the lowest hanging fruit at this point. Instead of trying to look for some overtime or get a second job or something like that, see what's at home, what's not being used, because one man's junk is another man's treasure. And that's the easiest way to try and get something extra. And you have to plan. You got to plan. Christmas is coming on the 25th of December next year as well. You know, for those that don't know, it's not a surprise. So we have to plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wanna talk to you about this because you said plan, and I think that's important. Your advice on South Africans, how to get it right come January, in terms of being a bit more circumspect about the funds that they're getting, so that maybe they have a greater financial 2024.
Yeah. So those bonuses that hopefully many people will be getting should not be part of your Decembering. put it away, put it in a 7-day, 14-day account, and look at it in January, and take that quiet time. It's usually quieter in January. From the 4th, it's like super quiet. Take some time, lock yourself in your room, and get out a pen or your computer and start planning for the year. And use that money either to settle debt. If you don't have debt, great. Other things you can put it in, like your retirement annuity, because you're gonna just boost your rebate, tax reinvestment. Just don't consume everything that you get in December.
Amazing. Yolanda Hariprasad from Solomon Wealth, thank you for making the time for us. Wonderful to spend the afternoon with you.
No problem.
Hope to do it soon. And yeah, that's where we'll have to leave the conversation. They're talking about how to mitigate that challenging festive season amid tough economic times. I hope we've provided you with some pearls of wisdom, even as Yolanda said at the beginning, just some crumbs that you could pick up and maybe try and turn it into some sort of financial sustainability. The broadcast, it came your way courtesy of the team, executive producer Salma Patel and Chanel Daniel. We'll be talking to you again 5 to 6 o'clock. Matthew Viren's going to be bringing you another edition of Newsbreak. You listen out for that. From me, Taresh, hey, have an awesome day.
Newsbreak, Lotus FM, powered by SABC News.